There's a lot of ways to look at this issue of immigration and small business, but maybe the best place to start is with the opinions and views of small businessmen themselves. The National Federation of Independent Business and the National Association for the Self-Employed, the two main organizations speaking for small business as a whole, surveyed their membership last year on this specific issue. And they found overwhelming concern among their membership for illegal immigration, overwhelming support for increased penalties against their fellow employers who knowingly hire illegal immigrants, and overwhelming opposition to letting illegal immigrants stay. None of this should be surprising because, in some sense, small business is America, given the depth and breadth of small business ownership and entrepreneurship in our country. And so the views of small businessmen simply reflect the broad public dissatisfaction with our current policy of open borders through non-enforcement of the immigration laws. But there are some specific issues specific to small business that are worth briefly touching on. First, the large-scale use of foreign labor is actually harmful in the long run, even to the small businesses and the industries using it. As Barbara Jordan's Commission on Immigration Reform wrote a decade ago, quote, "The availability of foreign workers may create a dependency on them," unquote. In other words, as with drugs or alcohol, easy availability of foreign labor can create a sort of addiction, rendering the user incapable of imagining life without a fix. But in a free market system like ours, industries evolve and adapt in response to changing labor characteristics and changing standards. For instance, nearly a century ago, small businessmen testifying before Congress said that child labor was essential for the functioning of their business. One small businessman said that ending child labor would, quote, "paralyze the country," unquote. Of course, it didn't work out that way. And precisely because a flexible economy like ours can and will adapt to changing labor market standards. When lawmakers, today's lawmakers, acknowledge the existing social consensus against the addiction to foreign labor, legal and illegal, those industries where some small businesses have become addicted to that foreign labor will adapt in ways that Adam Smith would have easily understood, offering better wages and benefits and changing the working conditions and recruitment practices to attract and retain legal workers, while at the same time finding ways of using the existing labor pool more efficiently, whether through increased harvest mechanization, increased use of prefabricated housing, what have you. Those who say otherwise are in fact telling the truth as they see it. The problem is, in other words, they're not lying. The problem is they are too close to the situation to see the big picture. They cannot see the forest for the trees, just like the small businessmen using child labor were unable to see the forest for the trees. It's Congress's job to step back and look at the whole forest, not focus on the bark of a single tree, if you will. Two other issues I quickly touch on that are relevant to small business. The question is, or the claims are, that using an electronic verification system to verify the status of new workers would be burdensome and a new mandate on employers. In fact, that's not the case. All the information that a verification system would collect is already collected. In fact, the only way that would change is if Congress abolished the Social Security system and income tax withholding, and I don't see that happening anytime soon. So that being the case, verifying that already collected information through a free, easy, quick system is clearly not a burden or a new mandate. And I can speak with experience about this because the existing voluntary electronic verification system is something my own small business participates in, and it is quick and it's easy and represents no burden at all. In fact, a mandate for all businesses to electronically verify their new workers isn't just a question of penalizing employers. In fact, it empowers legitimate employers to make sure they actually know who they're hiring and able to build a workforce on concrete, if you will, instead of on sand. And a final point that that Congressman Gutierrez referred to was a fear that a tighter immigration system, whether it's through enforcement or changing some of the categories, would somehow reduce entrepreneurship. And the contention here is that immigrants are somehow uniquely entrepreneurial, and immigration represents sort of a booster shot into a tired America and increases our entrepreneurial energies. Fortunately, when you look at the data, there's actually nothing to that at all. Immigrants are actually slightly less likely to be entrepreneurs than native-born Americans are. Certain ethnic groups are more likely to be entrepreneurial. Koreans, for instance, are more likely to be self-employed, but immigrants overall are actually slightly less likely to be self-employed than native-born Americans are. And so any change in immigration policy is, in fact, not going to have any significant effect on America's entrepreneurial situation. Let me end there, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that the subcommittee may have. Thank you.